The United States has had the largest military budget in the world since the start of the Cold War in 1950. From 1950 to the mid-1980s, the ballooning military budget was justified as tension between the United States and Russia sparked an arms race which ended after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. However, even after the collapse, the US military budget continued to rise. There is no justifiable reason for the billions of dollars spent on the military, which is double the size of both China and Russia combined. 34th President of the United States, Dwight Eisenhower, warned of the opportunity cost of military spending in one of the most powerful speeches ever given as the arms race was beginning in 1953.
Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete pavement. We pay for a single fighter plane with 500,000 bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. This is, I repeat, the best way of life to be found on the road the world has been taking. This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron.
The dystopian future this speech predicts has unfortunately come true, with the homelessness crisis in the dense areas of the United States like California and New York, the ever-increasing gap between upper and lower class, and the unstoppable military-industrial complex. The military-industrial complex is, in simple terms, the business of war. Again, Dwight Eisenhower warned of the dangers of the military-industrial complex in another speech in 1961, saying, quote, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex." What Eisenhower is saying here is that private military contractors should not have any influence what the United States military does. The Iron Triangle helps visualize the situation we are in today, with the United States Congress providing tax funding to the Department of Defense. The DoD then gives those tax-funded contracts to private military contractors, then those contractors provide funding for politicians' campaigns, essentially a cycle of corruption. Just recently, we saw the military-industrial complex swing back into action as the war in Ukraine rages on. Today, the United States takes every opportunity it gets to profit from war, in this case, selling arms to Ukraine. This, alongside many other instances in history, like the Iran-Contra affair, where the US sold arms to revolutionary groups in Iran. The entirety of the Iraq War, which was marketed as an anti-terror campaign, was in fact an attempt to seize Iraq's oil fields, and many more. Is human life really worth the profit? The US justifies its military spending in the name of world peace and national security. However, we in Australia are doing just fine with a military budget a fraction of the size of the United States. Our country's budget is more focused on the well-being of its people, with more infrastructure and social security focused spending, whereas America's lack of social safety nets means if a war does come and ruin the economy, the middle-class worker will be hit the hardest. In conclusion, the United States military is laughably overfunded without any real reason. The money that goes to the military is much better off in public hands, contributing to infrastructure projects and social safety nets, instead of defense contractors lobbying for an increased budget. Even with the looming Russian threat, the middle-class citizen will continue to pay the biggest price.